A strange encounter on Highway 93. The moonless night wrapped around Thomas Bennett's truck like a thick blanket as he navigated the empty stretches of Highway 93. The radio crackled with static, long since given up on finding a clear signal in these remote Montana mountains. Thomas preferred the quiet anyway, it matched the solitude he'd chosen after leaving his military career behind. His dashboard clock read 2:17 a.m. when the first unusual lights appeared in his rearview mirror. They weren't the familiar white headlights of another vehicle, but rather an ethereal purple glow that seemed to dance across the sky. Thomas adjusted his mirror, frowning. In his years as an Air Force pilot, he'd seen plenty of strange atmospheric phenomena, but nothing quite like this. The glow intensified, and suddenly a brilliant flash lit up the highway like daylight. Thomas gripped the wheel as his truck shuddered, buffeted by an invisible force. Something struck the trailer with enough force to make the entire rig sway. Years of training kicked in as he fought to keep the truck steady, gradually bringing it to a stop on the shoulder. His heart pounding, Thomas grabbed his flashlight and stepped out into the crisp mountain air. The purple glow had dimmed but not disappeared entirely, seeming to emanate from behind his trailer. As he approached, he heard a soft groan. What he found stopped him in his tracks. A woman lay curled on her side near his back wheels, but she was unlike any woman he'd ever seen. Her skin shimmered with a subtle purple iridescence, and what he'd initially taken for hair looked more like delicate tendrils that shifted and moved of their own accord. She wore some kind of sleek bodysuit that seemed to ripple like liquid metal. "Ma'am." Thomas kept his distance, flashlight beam steady. "Are you hurt?" Her eyes opened, revealing irises that swirled with deeper shades of violet. She pushed herself to a sitting position, movements graceful despite her apparent crash landing. "Your concern is appreciated," she said, her voice carrying an odd musical quality. "I am mostly undamaged, though this landing was less than optimal." Thomas had seen enough strange things during his military service to keep his cool, but this was testing his limits. "Want to tell me exactly what happened here?" She stood, brushing off her suit with elegant gestures. "My name is Nova. I apologize for involving you in this, but I had little choice in my landing trajectory." She glanced at the sky nervously. They were too close. "I had to attempt atmospheric entry at a steeper angle than recommended." "They?" Thomas followed her gaze but saw only stars. "The ones who pursue me. They will trace my energy signature soon." Nova took a step toward him, then stumbled. Thomas caught her arm reflexively, her skin was warm to the touch and seemed to pulse with a subtle energy. "I need your help. Please. I cannot let them find me, too much depends on it." Before Thomas could respond, a high-pitched whine filled the air. Nova's head snapped up, her tendrils writhing with agitation. "They're here sooner than I calculated. Please, you must help me hide. I know I have no right to ask, but you're my only hope." Thomas looked between the mysterious woman and his truck, years of military instinct warring with common sense. The whine grew louder, and now he could see new lights appearing in the sky, harsh blue searchlights sweeping the highway. "Get in," he heard himself say, already moving toward the driver's side. "But I want answers." Nova practically flew to the passenger door, her movements liquid smooth despite her earlier unsteadiness. "You shall have them. But first, we must put distance between us and the search party. Their scanning technology has limitations within your planet's denser atmosphere." As Thomas pulled back onto the highway, he couldn't help but wonder what he was getting himself into. He'd left the military to find peace and quiet, not to get caught up in what was clearly an interstellar incident. Yet something in Nova's desperate plea had struck a chord, or maybe he'd just been alone on the road too long. The harsh blue searchlights faded behind them as Thomas guided the truck into the mountains. Nova sat perfectly still beside him, her purple glow providing just enough light to cast soft shadows across the cab. Thomas had 1,000 questions, but he started with the most pressing. "These people chasing you, what do they want? Nova's tendrils curled tightly against her head, a gesture he was beginning to recognize as anxiety. They want what I took from them. Something they plan to use against your world and others. I couldn't allow that to happen. Thomas gripped the wheel tighter. So you're what, some kind of intergalactic thief? No, she said softly, her glow dimming slightly. I am a protector. Or at least, I'm trying to be. Your world may seem primitive to them, but I've studied Earth for years. Your people have something rare in the galaxy, potential. I couldn't stand by and watch that potential be extinguished. The weight of her words hung in the cab as Thomas guided the truck deeper into the mountains. Whatever he'd gotten himself into, he had a feeling his quiet life had just become a lot more complicated. Trust in the stars. Thunder rolled through the mountains as Thomas guided his truck along the winding Forest Service road. The headlights caught heavy raindrops that had begun to fall, turning them into streaks of silver. Beside him, Nova watched the storm with undisguised fascination, her tendrils swaying in rhythm with each lightning flash. Your atmospheric discharge phenomena are beautiful, she murmured, pressing closer to the window. Though I admit, they make me somewhat apprehensive. Thomas fought back a smile. You can travel through space, but you're afraid of a little thunder. I am not afraid, Nova said quickly, though her purple glow intensified with each thunderclap. I am simply concerned about the electrical interference with my biological energy field. Right. Thomas turned off the main road onto an even narrower track. There's an old ranger station up ahead. Used to stop there sometimes during my supply runs before they closed it down. Should be safe enough to wait out the storm. Nova's expression grew serious. We cannot stay in one location for too long. The Sentinel Core has ways of tracking energy signatures, even through your planet's electromagnetic interference. The Sentinel Core. Thomas guided the truck around a fallen branch. That who's after you? They are peacekeepers, of a sort. Nova's tendrils curled tightly. Though their methods of maintaining peace have become increasingly questionable. When I discovered their true plans for Earth, I couldn't remain silent. The ranger station appeared through the rain, a sturdy log structure nestled against the mountainside. Thomas parked behind it, using the building to shield them from view of the main road. Speaking of those plans, think it's time for some real answers? Nova nodded slowly. Yes, you deserve to know. She reached into a hidden pocket of her suit and withdrew what looked like a crystal sphere about the size of a tennis ball. Within its depths, colors shifted and swirled like an aurora. This is why they hunt me. The Core calls it the Harmony Sphere, a device capable of altering the fundamental frequencies of matter itself. Thomas stared at the sphere, mesmerized by its shifting colors. And they were going to use this against Earth somehow. They intended to use your planet as a test site. Nova's voice hardened. The sphere can harmonize all matter within a planetary body to a single frequency. They claimed it would bring peace by making all beings resonate in unity. In reality, it would strip away everything that makes your species unique, your creativity, your free will, your very humanity. Lightning flashed again, illuminating Nova's face. In that instant, Thomas saw something in her expression that made his chest tighten, a fierce determination mixed with profound sadness. You risked everything to stop them. I had to. Her free hand brushed his arm, sending a tingling sensation through his skin. In all my years studying Earth, I've never encountered beings who feel things so deeply, who create such beauty from chaos, who fight so hard for what they believe in. The Core sees only your technological limitations. They don't understand that humanity's true power lies in your hearts. Before Thomas could respond, a harsh blue light swept across the station's windows. Nova's glow dimmed instantly as she pressed back against the seat. They're scanning the area. We must. The rest of her warning was cut off by an explosion that rocked the truck. Thomas looked in his side mirror to see three figures in sleek armor emerging from the rain, their weapons trained on the vehicle. Each bore the same harsh blue lights he'd seen searching for them earlier. "Exit the vehicle," a mechanically enhanced voice commanded. "Surrender the Harmony Sphere, and the human will not be harmed." Thomas glanced at Nova, saw the fear and determination warring in her otherworldly eyes. In that moment, he made a decision that would change his life forever. "Hold on," he growled, throwing the truck into reverse. The sentinels opened fire, but Thomas had already slammed the accelerator. The truck roared backward, forcing their pursuers to dive aside. He spun the wheel, executing a perfect J-turn that sent them hurtling back down the forest road. "They'll follow," Nova said, clutching the sphere protectively. "The Corps never abandons a target. Let them try." Thomas shifted gears smoothly, years of military driving training taking over. "I know these mountains better than they ever will." Nova's glow brightened slightly as she looked at him. "Why are you helping me? You could have surrendered me, saved yourself." Thomas kept his eyes on the road, dodging fallen branches as rain lashed the windshield. "Maybe I'm tired of sitting on the sidelines. Or maybe—" he glanced at her quickly, "maybe I'm starting to understand what you see in humanity." A small smile curved Nova's lips, her purple glow warming the cab. "Then perhaps there's hope for both our worlds after all." Behind them, blue lights cut through the rain as the sentinels gave chase. But as Thomas guided them deeper into the storm-racked mountains, he felt more alive than he had in years. Whatever came next, he knew his days of quiet solitude were over, and somehow, that didn't seem like such a bad thing. Hidden truths revealed. Dawn painted the eastern sky in shades of rose and gold as Thomas guided the truck through a narrow mountain pass. They'd managed to lose their pursuers during the night, thanks to his knowledge of the back roads and Nova's ability to mask their energy signature. Now, exhausted but alert, they'd found temporary shelter in an abandoned mining tunnel. Nova sat cross-legged on a boulder near the tunnel's mouth, the Harmony Sphere cradled in her lap. Her purple glow had dimmed to match the early morning light, making her appear almost human, if you ignored the gently swaying tendrils that framed her face. "The sphere is changing," she said softly as Thomas approached with 2 cups of coffee from his thermos. "It's responding to Earth's natural frequencies." Thomas handed her one of the cups, which she accepted with evident curiosity. "Is that good or bad?" "Neither. Simply, unexpected." She sniffed the coffee cautiously, her tendrils curling with interest. "Like many things about your world." She took a small sip and her eyes widened, glow brightening momentarily. "This sensation, it's quite invigorating." "Just wait till the caffeine kicks in," Thomas said with a slight smile, settling beside her. "Now, about those answers you promised." Nova's expression grew serious. "Yes. You've risked much to help me, you deserve the full truth." She held up the sphere, which seemed to pulse in rhythm with her own subtle luminescence. "The Sentinel Corps believes they are protecting the galaxy by enforcing uniformity. Their leaders fear chaos, fear difference. When they discovered Earth, they saw a world of contradictions, great beauty and terrible destruction, profound love and devastating hatred." "Sounds about right," Thomas muttered. "But they failed to understand that these contradictions, this chaos, is what makes humanity special." Nova's tendrils swayed with emotion. "In my role as a cultural observer, I've watched your people create art that moves souls, music that touches hearts, stories that change minds. You feel everything so deeply, love so fiercely, dream so boldly." She turned to face him fully, her violet eyes intense. "The Corps wants to fix humanity by using the Harmony Sphere to force all minds into perfect alignment. No more conflict, they say. No more war or hatred or fear. But they would also destroy everything that makes you unique, your creativity, your passion, your free will." Thomas stared into the sphere's swirling depths. "And you couldn't let that happen?" "No." Nova's hand found his, her warm touch sending tingles up his arm. I've spent years studying Earth's cultures, learning your languages, watching your struggles and triumphs. I couldn't stand by and watch everything that makes humanity beautiful be erased in the name of false peace. So you stole their weapon and ran to the planet they least understand, Thomas said, beginning to see the full picture. Pretty risky move. Nova's glow dimmed slightly. I had help. There are others in the Corps who share my views, who believe in protecting diversity rather than enforcing uniformity. They helped me escape, helped me reach Earth. There's a safe house, what you would call a sanctuary, where they can help us destroy the sphere before it's too late. Where is this sanctuary? Hidden in plain sight, in one of your cities. We've maintained a secret presence on Earth for decades, watching, learning, protecting when necessary. She hesitated. But reaching it won't be easy. The Sentinels who pursue us are elite hunters, and they have technology far beyond anything you've seen. Thomas thought of the strange weapons they'd faced at the ranger station. Yeah, got a taste of that already. But they've got weaknesses too, they're not used to Earth's environment, don't know the terrain like we do. Nova's tendrils curled in what he was beginning to recognize as a gesture of hope. You're still willing to help? Even knowing the dangers? Thomas looked at their joined hands, feeling the subtle energy that seemed to flow between them. In the few hours since she'd literally crashed into his life, something had changed inside him. The lonely isolation he'd wrapped around himself like armor since leaving the military felt lighter somehow, as if Nova's presence was awakening parts of himself he'd thought long buried. Let's just say you're not the only one who believes some things are worth fighting for, he said quietly. Nova's glow brightened, bathing them both in soft purple light. For a moment, they sat in comfortable silence, watching the sun climb higher over the mountains. Then a distant whine shattered the peace, the distinctive sound of Sentinel search vehicles. They're getting closer, Nova said, rising gracefully to her feet. We should move. Thomas nodded, already heading for the truck. How far to this sanctuary of yours? 200 miles, through some of your most populated areas. Nova slipped into the passenger seat, clutching the sphere protectively. The Corps will be watching major roads. Then we don't take major roads. Thomas started the engine, a plan already forming. I know some routes through the back country, harder to follow, harder to be seen. Might take longer, but we'll have a better chance, Nova finished. Her free hand found his arm again, that now familiar energy passing between them. Thank you, Thomas. For everything. He met her violet gaze for a moment, seeing not just gratitude there, but something deeper, something that made his heart beat faster. Thank me when we get there, he said gruffly, putting the truck in gear. As they pulled out of the mining tunnel, the sun broke fully over the mountain peaks, filling the cab with golden light that merged with Nova's purple glow into something new and beautiful. Whatever challenges lay ahead, Thomas knew with absolute certainty that his life would never be the same, and for the first time in years, that thought didn't frighten him at all. The chase through Thunder Valley. Sunset painted the sky in fierce oranges and purples as Thomas's truck wound through the narrow canyon locals called Thunder Valley. The towering rock walls seemed to glow with the day's dying light, casting long shadows across the rough dirt road. In the passenger seat, Nova studied a small device that looked like a compact mirror made of flowing metal. The Sentinels are adapting to Earth's electromagnetic interference faster than I anticipated, she said, her tendrils writhing with concern. They've already tracked us through 3 states. Thomas checked his mirrors for the 100th time. How close? Too close. Nova's purple glow pulsed anxiously. And they're not alone anymore. They've called in reinforcements, a full tactical unit. She turned to him, her violet eyes intense. Thomas, perhaps you should let me continue alone. You've already risked too much. Not happening, he cut her off, steering around a sharp bend. We started this together, we'll finish it together. The warmth of her smile filled the cab with soft purple light. You are remarkably stubborn, even for a human. Part of our charm, he said with a slight grin. Then his expression turned serious. Tell me more about this tactical unit. What are we up against? Nova's tendrils curled tightly against her head. Elite hunters with advanced weaponry and tracking abilities. They have vehicles that can transform to handle any terrain, armor that can deflect most physical attacks, and neural nets that enhance their combat reflexes. Anything they're not good at? Actually, yes. Nova's glow brightened slightly. They rely heavily on their technology and structured tactical protocols. They struggle with improvisation, with the unexpected. It's one reason they find humans so challenging. Thomas was about to respond when a high-pitched whine filled the air. Nova's device flashed urgent warnings as multiple blue lights appeared behind them, reflecting off the canyon walls. Here they come, Thomas growled, downshifting. Hold on. The first energy blast struck the road just behind them, turning the dirt to glass. Thomas swerved as more shots followed, the truck's heavy tires throwing up clouds of dust. In his mirrors, he could see 5 sleek vehicles gaining ground, their forms shifting and adapting to the rough terrain. Nova pressed her hand against the truck's dashboard, her purple glow intensifying. I can temporarily mask our energy signature, but it will drain me significantly. Save your strength, Thomas said, his military training taking over. We're going to need it. He yanked the wheel hard, taking them down a nearly invisible side trail. There's an old copper mine ahead. The mineral deposits mess with electronic equipment, might give us an edge. The pursuing vehicles split up, 2 breaking off to parallel their course along the canyon rim while 3 stayed close behind. Another energy blast struck closer, scorching the truck's paint. They're hurting us, Nova realized, clutching the harmony sphere tightly. Let them think that's what they're doing. Thomas's eyes scanned the trail ahead, remembering details from old mining maps he'd studied years ago. When I say, now, I need you to use whatever energy you can spare to protect us. Can you do that? Nova nodded, her glow steadying. I trust you. Those 3 simple words hit Thomas harder than he expected. How long had it been since anyone had trusted him that completely? Since he'd let anyone close enough to trust at all. The mine entrance appeared ahead, a dark maw in the rock face. Thomas pressed the accelerator, the truck's engine roaring. The pursuers closed in, clearly expecting them to be trapped. Now! Thomas shouted. Nova's purple glow exploded outward as Thomas cranked the wheel hard. The truck skidded, then crashed through a weathered barrier into the mine shaft. Behind them, the Sentinel vehicles tried to follow, but their advanced systems immediately began to malfunction in the mineral-rich environment. 2 collided in spectacular fashion while the third spun out trying to avoid them. Thomas didn't slow down, guiding the truck deeper into the maze of tunnels by memory alone. Nova's protective field illuminated their way, casting everything in surreal purple light. The other 2 will try to cut us off at the far exit, she said, her voice strained from maintaining the field. Who said anything about using the exit? Thomas took them down a side tunnel that grew progressively narrower. These mines all connect to natural cave systems. Some of them come out miles from here. Nova's eyes widened. You're going to navigate underground caves? In a vehicle this size? Like you said, humans are good at improvising. He flashed her a quick grin. Besides, I used to explore these caves during supply runs. Know them better than anyone. Her answering laugh was like music, despite her obvious exhaustion. You continue to surprise me, Thomas Bennett. Good. He reached over and squeezed her hand briefly. Because we're just getting started. They drove deeper into the earth, Nova's protective field keeping the worst of the tunnel's instabilities at bay while Thomas navigated by instinct and memory. The harmony sphere pulsed between them, its colors shifting in harmony with Nova's glow. Finally, after what felt like hours, they emerged from a hidden cave mouth into a moonlit forest. Nova immediately slumped in her seat, her glow dimming to almost nothing. "Hey!" Thomas caught her before she could fall forward. "You okay?" "Just drained." She managed a weak smile. That took more energy than anticipated. But it was worth it to see the looks on their faces when their precious technology failed them. Thomas helped her sit up, trying to ignore how right it felt to have her in his arms. "We should find somewhere safe to rest. You need to recover your strength before we make the final push to the sanctuary." Nova's hand found his chest, right over his heart. "Your heart rate is elevated," she murmured. "Are you concerned about my condition, or is there another reason?" The moment stretched between them, charged with possibilities. Thomas found himself leaning closer, drawn by her otherworldly beauty and the genuine warmth in her violet eyes. A distant explosion shattered the moment. Nova's head snapped up, her tendrils alert. "They're not giving up." "Course not." Thomas reluctantly pulled away, putting the truck in gear. "But neither are we." As they drove deeper into the forest, Thomas couldn't help but wonder if they were running from more than just the sentinels. Because with every passing hour, every shared danger, every quiet moment like the one they just had, he was falling harder for this impossible woman from the stars. And somehow, that terrified him more than all the alien hunters in the galaxy. A choice of two worlds. First light crept over the city skyline as Thomas's battered truck approached their destination. Nova sat up straighter in the passenger seat, her purple glow strengthening despite her lingering exhaustion. The harmony sphere in her lap pulsed with increasing frequency, responding to something only she could sense. There, she pointed to what appeared to be an abandoned art gallery. "The sanctuary is hidden beneath it. My allies maintain the building as a cover." Thomas pulled into a narrow alley behind the gallery, killing the engine. "Seems quiet. Maybe too quiet." "The sentinels are already here," Nova confirmed, her tendrils writhing with tension. "I can feel their energy signatures. They're waiting for us." "How many?" "At least 12. She turned to face him, her violet eyes intense. "Thomas, what comes next?" "I can't ask you to." He silenced her with a gentle finger against her lips, surprised by his own boldness. "You're not asking. I'm choosing. Whatever happens, we face it together." The warmth of her smile made his heart race. "Together," she agreed softly. Then her expression turned serious. "But first, there's something you need to know. The sanctuary isn't just a safe house, it's a gateway. Once the sphere is destroyed, I'll have to return to my homeworld to face the core leadership. To expose their plans and rally support among those who still believe in protecting diversity rather than enforcing uniformity." Thomas felt his chest tighten. "You're leaving." "I." Nova's glow dimmed slightly. "My mission isn't finished." "But." She placed her hand over his heart, that now familiar energy flowing between them. "You could come with me." Before Thomas could respond, harsh blue lights flooded the alley. A mechanically enhanced voice boomed, "Surrender the sphere and the human will be spared." Nova's hand found his. "Ready?" Thomas grinned. "Let's show them what humanity's really capable of." They burst from the truck in opposite directions as energy blasts scorched the ground where they'd been. Thomas rolled behind a dumpster, drawing fire while Nova sprinted for a side door. 3 sentinels in sleek armor moved to intercept her, but Thomas was ready. He hurled a small device Nova had given him, a magnetic pulse generator that disrupted their armor systems just long enough for Nova to slip past. More sentinels converged on his position. Thomas ducked and weaved between cover, using the urban terrain to his advantage just as he'd used the mountains. Their superior technology meant nothing in these close quarters where quick thinking and improvisation mattered more than fancy equipment. He fought his way toward the gallery entrance, staying just ahead of their attacks. Inside, he found Nova locked in combat with 2 sentinels, her purple energy field deflecting their weapons while the Harmony sphere pulsed with increasing intensity. "The gateway," she called out. Behind the main display wall. Thomas spotted the hidden panel and sprinted for it, drawing fire away from Nova. She took advantage of the distraction to unleash a pulse of energy that sent her attackers flying. The sphere in her hands grew brighter, responding to her power. Together they reached the panel, Nova quickly inputting a complex sequence. The wall slid aside revealing a shimmering portal of swirling energy. But before they could reach it, a new figure stepped through, tall and imposing in ornate armor that pulsed with harsh blue light. "Commander Valdric," Nova breathed, her tendrils curling tight against her head. "Did you really think we wouldn't figure it out?" The commander's voice carried an artificial resonance that set Thomas's teeth on edge. "That we wouldn't recognize your energy signature? You've led us right to the Resistance's primary Earth gateway." Nova's glow brightened defiantly. "You've lost, Valdric. The sphere will be destroyed, and your plans for Earth exposed." "Foolish girl." Valdric raised his hand, energy crackling around it. "Your primitive allies cannot hope to match our power. Observe." The energy blast caught Thomas in the chest before he could dodge, sending him crashing into the wall. Nova screamed his name, starting toward him, but Valdric's next attack forced her back. "You see." The commander advanced slowly. "Humans are weak, chaotic, unworthy of existence in our ordered galaxy. The sphere will fix that. Perfect harmony will be achieved." Thomas pushed himself up, ignoring the pain. "You really don't get it, do you?" He met Nova's eyes and saw understanding flash through them. "Chaos isn't our weakness, it's our strength." He lunged forward as Nova threw the sphere high. Valdric's attention split for a crucial second, his next blast going wide. Thomas tackled him, disrupting his armor's stabilizing field just as Nova caught the sphere and slammed it into the gateway's energy matrix. Light exploded through the gallery as the sphere's power merged with the portals. Nova grabbed Thomas, pulling him close as reality warped around them. For a moment, he felt everything, every possibility, every potential future spinning out before them. Then they were through, tumbling onto a crystal floor in what appeared to be a vast chamber. Alien architecture soared overhead, but Thomas had eyes only for Nova as she helped him up. "The sphere?" he asked. "Destroyed." She smiled, her purple glow bright with triumph. "Its power has been dispersed harmlessly across 1,000 dimensions. Earth is safe." "And Valdric?" "Trapped between portals with his tactical unit. They'll be found eventually, but without the sphere or their precious technology, they'll have to answer for their actions." Thomas looked around at the alien environment. "So this is your world?" "Part of it." Nova's hand found his again. "There's so much more I could show you. If you want to stay." Thomas thought of his quiet life on Earth, the solitude he'd wrapped around himself like armor after leaving the military. Then he looked at this incredible woman who had literally crashed into his world and shown him that some things were worth fighting for, worth feeling for. "Well," he said, squeezing her hand gently, "someone's got to teach your people about the beauty of chaos." Nova's answering smile lit up the chamber, her tendrils swaying with joy as she pulled him close. As their lips met in their first kiss, Thomas felt that familiar energy flow between them, but stronger now, permanent. He didn't know what challenges lay ahead in this new world, but he knew he'd face them all with Nova by his side. Because sometimes the greatest adventures begin with a chance encounter on a lonely highway, and the courage to trust in something bigger than yourself.